and welcome to episode 97 of the So Bet Punks podcast, a podcast about meaning, transcendence, awe and spirituality with a whopping great S, I'd say nowadays, wouldn't you, Dave?
Huge.
My name's Siobhan.
And I'm Dave.
Oh.
I've already been introduced there. Thank you very much. You sounded like you were surprised to see everybody when we started.
Well, it's been 4
Hello?
weeks. Hello. Yeah, it's been a little break, isn't it? It's been 4 weeks since the regular 2.
We have been away.
Yeah.
Did you miss us, listener?
Pause. Silence.
I'm going to say that's a hard yes. So we've been away for a month. We went to the US of A.
Diddly-doo. To the West Coast, to the state of California.
Everybody I've talked to about it since I got back have been like, God, what's it like in America now? And ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you it's just the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's no different. I would. Well, where did all the homeless go? I mean, I do want to know where they're living now. There was an awful lot of homeless when we were last there before. I know this is horrible to start this way.
Oh, yeah.
Was,
I don't know.
That's the only change.
But
it's
in fairness,
change.
But the time before so Los Angeles has always had a large homeless problem, and every time I've ever been, which has been a number of times over the past. First time I ever went was I worked it out 25 years ago.
Oh wow!
And that was the only time a Scientologist tried to get me to join Scientology. But anyway, that's another point. And
we didn't even bother trying this time.
But there's always been a huge homeless problem in Skid Row.
Yeah,
which is sort of infamous. And
specifically that area, as in it's like a street where like mental health facilities, when you've reached your free limit, they kind of send you in a taxi and drop you off there. That sort of kind of that renowned of an area.
And I don't know how that ever happened, because I feel like that's certainly not something new. I think Skid Row has been like that for possibly, it could even be like 100 years or something.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the history of it, but it's odd. Like it's odd to us because you just wouldn't really have that in this country.
No.
And I don't know that that's true of other places in America. But again, I'm completely ignorant, so I'm just guessing. But the last time that we went, so not the time we've just been, but the time before that, when we got engaged and married,
of course,
which is one of the reasons we went back.
I know.
There was like Hollywood had just become kind of similar in its appearance,
and it had always
to Skid Row.
Had its own little kind of homeless or drug problem in Hollywood. Like, for those who don't know, and I certainly didn't know, you hear Hollywood and you go, wow, Hollywood, glamorous, but once you've been there, you know Hollywood is a bit of a dump. Well,
Hollywood Boulevard was similar to Times Square in New York, and Covent Garden in London, and places in all sorts of cities everywhere. It was always like the rough bit with the sort of sex workers and the homeless people and the drunkards.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a very good way of describing it. Probably not very politically correct, but so it cleaned up in the context that it wasn't that anymore necessarily. But yeah, it's definitely scuzzy.
Yeah, but last time was particularly.
The last time we went was surprising. You just don't see that sort of homelessness in our country. And I mean, we in Hastings, the town that we live in, for those who don't know, I mean, there's a big homeless problem in the context of the UK. We've probably got one of the largest, I would think, homeless populations, and drug well, we got the best heroin in the country. But there's nothing like what was happening the time, like 2 years ago, which is when we went last.
Yeah.
But this time the Hollywood just seems to not have that now, and I don't know how one goes about. Yeah. Not one. It's not for me to do. How a council or a government or whatever they have in America.
Yeah. There's something about it that feels worrying. Is a bit of a strange word, but you know what I mean. Like, has this been done the right way? But you don't know. That's the thing. You go to someone else's country and you just don't understand the nuances of things. But it's just intriguing to note that, like, the first time pretty bad and notoriously that's the area. Second time just pretty horrific, 2 years ago. And then within 2 years it went from like hundreds of people camped up on Hollywood Boulevard in little tents to absolutely nothing, and infrastructure in place to try and actively discourage them. So like car lots that had blasting out of classical music, and it was all set up in a way to try and deter people from being there. That's now all gone, and the people have gone, but it's just like, what happened?
Well, yeah, but then it's interesting that you're wording that in a very specific way, because you could word that in a completely different way. You could say, God, 2 years ago there's a really bad homeless problem in Los Angeles, and we went back this time, and they've sorted it all out. It's amazing. There's no homeless people now. I mean, it's not that there's none, but and I'm not saying, but you just assume nefariousness.
Yeah, I know. Well, but you do, because there was still a lot of people hanging around. You just think, okay, well, maybe they're living somewhere. And actually, that's a good thing.
But without question, I'm sure we've possibly talked about this in the past. I mean, America, in relation to how they deal with people who suffer from mental health problems, or certainly in big cities, and I mean, I suppose only in the cities that I've been to. So I mean, this is all very limited, but certainly in Los Angeles, we can say for sure that it is absolutely insane how little care there is for people who are suffering from serious mental health problems.
Yeah. Proper psychosis.
Yeah.
People just screaming and shouting all the time in a way that I think the general public must be really, like, that must be kind of horrible. So I'm saying, from a mental health perspective, that's kind of like bread and butter on an acute unit. You do kind of get used to it, but it's striking how much it feels. Obviously, it feels weird when you're out of place, when you're seeing it not in a, you expect to hear and see it in a psychiatric unit. So you recognize it really quickly, and it's startling because you're like, well, this is just the public. But I feel like I maybe have some sort of tolerance. Same for you, like some sort of like ability to kind of hear it and let it go. That must be really scary for people who just aren't around it all the time. Yeah. Apart from the people in LA are around it all the time.
I was going to say, that's the thing. I mean, one of the most worrying things for me about it, and this is presumption again, or at least putting two and two together, but one of the most worrying things about it is that the amount that people are just obviously so used to it. Yeah. So it didn't seem to bat an eyelid on anybody walking around. And I mean, I think if that was any place in the UK, people would be actively like worried, both for themselves and for the people. And so the fact that people were walking around whilst all of this was going on as if nothing was going on was kind of surreal, but it also just speaks to the fact that that it's obviously just a completely normal part of life. Yeah. It's just like, oh, well, yeah, there's crazy people and they're, who knows what's up with them, but we can't do anything about it.
And one of the more kinder aspects of all of this, which is, it's horrible to think that this is how it has to be, but because the general healthcare system's not set up to look after these people, the general public, not the general public, but the public-facing services that are available kind of do their bit. So, for example, we were on a train where someone was clearly disturbed on it, and the people at the station got on looking as if, like, people at the station, like the workers that were at the station that you would think come on the train to kind of boot out people or to check on like difficult behaviours that are reported, and ticket instructors came on specifically just to check if this man was okay, and then got off. And you thought, oh God, they're coming on to boot this poor man off, but they're not, because they understand that this poor man is probably just going to be riding this train for a little bit, or even if they're not, just looking out for them in a way. And I think that we saw that a lot with bus drivers and tube people, quite a lot. They're the kind of only people, because the homeless are often riding those things to keep warm or to get anywhere.
Well, there seems to be an unsaid agreement on buses that if you can't afford the ticket, you just get on. Yeah. I mean, and again, it's not like we've got, it's not like we've got enough understanding of the situation to really say that for sure. But that certainly certainly seemed just completely normal. Yeah. So that was... It was
quite nice.
It was really nice. Yeah. But, I mean, it's odd, isn't it? Because I suppose maybe that would be the argument for libertarianism in some ways. It's that all of those things, or maybe not the buses, but most of those things that were providing care for people were private industry. And I'm sure that private industry give money to charities that are also run privately and this sort of thing. And so I suppose it's that if the government just says, no, we don't do anything for these people, then ultimately other people step in their place through the kindness of their heart or just through the normalization of it. I'm not saying that's something I agree with, but and and long live our National Health Service. But
of course. And it's not enough, is it? I mean, look at it. They can't afford their care. And the best... It's on the flip side, it's really nice that the bus drivers and the tube people have this unsaid agreement that they look after them, but it is like the bare minimum. Like, it's not... No one else has kind of come forward, and unless someone has taken in those hundreds of homeless that we saw 2 years ago...
Well, maybe
they have, and that's the thing. It's the nuances of being in a country you don't understand or isn't yours.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also that you just leave. You go for a couple of weeks... Then you leave for 2 years and then you come back and then you say, oh, God, this is different. Well, of course it's different.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, we're just stupid tourists that have popped in.
It is funny the amount of people that tell me, and believe me, I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't really, whatever, America do you. But, although I appreciate America, the big country in the world. But a lot of people have said, like, oh, what's it like going there with Trump in power? And on a day-to-day, like, it's a bit like saying, what's it like being here if Labour, Conservative, insert any political party, or what's it like now they're in power?
If you
go there for 2 weeks, how do you know?
Well, also the birds still sing and the sun still shines. Like, it makes very little difference to anything.
But it's funny how many people I know really believe that it's not like you go there and you feel Trump's presence somehow.
But that's it's social media, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people ask me weird things like, oh God, did they check all of your accounts before you go in or something? Everybody's got this idea that apparently people... I think someone didn't get let in because they'd posted something stupid on their Twitter about J.D. Vance or something. I don't even know. I don't even know if it's a true story or not. And I don't really care. But there's just this weird idea that suddenly everything's gone completely mad. And of course it hasn't. Everything is just the same as it was.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, with some different new policies that you can agree with or disagree with. Yeah.
It is interesting, actually, specifically what you just said, because if you engage in the madness of the social media and having a political opinion and feeling that your, voice on the internet is so powerful that you need to air your political opinion, isn't it interesting that that's why people are convinced that you won't get let in? And even if it was actually happening, isn't that just some all, like, weird, crazy... We'll just step out of that system and you've got nothing to worry about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's ultimately
like,
that...
Why be in it?
The argument would be, I'm keeping up to date with current affairs. But the problem is that the current affairs that you're keeping up to date with are just making you madder and madder.
Yeah, exactly.
So therefore, actually, you understand the world less than someone who literally digs a hole in the sand and puts their head in.
Yeah.
Because at least that person's got space to think and focus and... exist in the real world. Again, hear the birds singing and see the sun shining.
It's so interesting, actually. I every time this sort of stuff comes up, I remember the amount of times it's pointed out in various books that we read that we now have more access to more information than the wisest people of the past, like the philosophers and the religious people, especially the ones that like go off and in hermitage and just write these amazing books, and you just think, clearly having access to information does not equal being wise and being thoughtful and seeing the world for what it is. But yet we're convinced in this modern world that we have to be so up to date with the news, otherwise we're a doofus.
Well, that's because ultimately what smart is, or what clever is having all the things that the internet generally, it's not just social media, takes away from you. It's about having focus. It's about having space. It's about having solitude. It's about probably having silence. It's about having time. It's about not being anxious. It's about not being stressed. All of these things affect how smart you are. And so Dostoevsky didn't have to worry about loads of things going into his brain. He just had gaps there so he could fill it with absolute genius. Yeah. And that's not to say he didn't do a lot of reading too. Yeah. But it's not that, these people from the past that seem to do amazing things that we couldn't imagine doing anymore are just us, but with an attention span. Yeah,
exactly that. I can't remember which, I think it was when I was reading about the Stoics, but there's at least one like incredible, well, maybe not one, but there's a number of incredible Stoics that had access to literally like 4 books.
Yeah. Well, most people of that era. I mean, 4 books was a lot.
Yeah, like the most like well-read ones had like access to like 4 books. So we're lucky, but we are, prisoner of too much information.
So there you go. Turn off your telly, turn off your phone, and you can be Plato. Simple as that.
And that's America.
Good night.
We'll be, I think, we're going to spend a lot of this episode talking about bits and pieces from that holiday. So I'm sure, and America generally, and just some bits and pieces. So it'll get happier than just talking about the homeless problem and whether Trump's influential.
Well, to be clear, we had a lovely time.
Yeah, it was a lovely time.
I almost died from poo.
Again, but can we just stress we had a lovely time? We're not gonna sell it very well. We called the LAPD once. We'll get to that. And Dave got a heat stroke and peed out of his bottom for about 5 days. Didn't pee properly for what, 5 days?
It's not important. We don't have to talk about that.
You brought it up.
No, I know.
Okay.
In passing.
Oh, yeah. You can't just say I nearly died in passing. Dave got a heat stroke. He recovered.
I didn't nearly die. That might be pushing it a bit. But I did get to the point, when you Google search your symptoms, and you probably do that a bit too much when you're very unwell, particularly when you haven't arranged travel insurance and you're in a country that doesn't have a national health service. The problem is that the Google warnings, whilst I was following my symptoms through, about halfway through this process, when I had a fever and one half of my body went completely numb, it said you must get immediate medical attention at this point. And then, so obviously we didn't, because it would cost loads of money. So I went and bought some electrolytes. Yeah, so I had some electrolytes, but I just pooed them out. And then, what else happened? Then, I hadn't, because I was my body wasn't accepting any fluids, basically, which is obviously quite dangerous. And I hadn't weed for like 24 hours. And I think at that point, when it said that, it said you must immediately contact the emergency services.
Well, it's just like, basically, if you have that sort of diarrhea, they're just like, this is the end of dehydration. Like, this is the last symptom. And you really do have to, like, if you get to the point where you're doing that, then you are
doing that.
Can't even call it diarrhea. Peeing out of your bottom is more appropriate to what was happening with you.
Yeah.
And it's basically like you're dehydrated, and if you get to the point where there's diarrhea, it's just gonna circularly make it worse, and you have to go to hospital. And you had diarrhea from the Tuesday, day dot, pretty much.
Well,
and you didn't eat for 5 days.
Our anniversary was celebrated by going to an extraordinarily posh restaurant on the top. By far the poshest place we've ever been.
Ever, yeah.
And on the top floor of a sort of penthouse hotel, certainly not a hotel we were staying in.
No.
I mean, we could never have done that.
At Santa Monica Beach.
At Santa Monica Beach, we
panoramic view of the beach.
Beautiful. We went for brunch, as you might.
Yeah.
And I just had to keep going and weeing out of my bottom.
Have their beautiful same panoramic view in the toilet.
The toilet was beautiful, so it couldn't have been a better place to have a terrible diarrhea fit.
Yeah, to have a near-death experience.
The toilet was right by this ginormous window. Almost the entire wall was a window, and it had exactly the same view as we had from our really plush table. So I got the full experience, just broken up occasionally. And then they brought us out because Siobhan, being the fantastic human being that she is, had told them in advance that it was our anniversary.
Look, on Open Table it says, is this a special occasion? And I'm like, it happens to be our anniversary, so I'm putting that in. Yeah, and it was an option you picked from.
Brought more attention than we should have ever had, particularly considering this was a very posh restaurant and I was
destroying their toilet.
So it wasn't ideal. But then at the end, so I felt extraordinarily unwell, and I'd sort of vaguely forced this brunch down myself.
You should never have left the house that day.
I should definitely not have left the house. And then they appeared with a sparkler and what was it?
Profiteroles
and ice cream.
Sauce.
And of course, being an English person who at this point was more or less dead, I couldn't possibly be given a free profiterole and not eat it with a smile on my face, with the waitresses sort of looking over, giving us a smile.
I'll be leaving this in your bathroom.
I'm not sure where it went, and there was no solids left in that bathroom or any other bathroom for a number of days. So I don't know. That might still be in there. I'm not really sure.
It's not. You fool. Well, luckily you got well, and I promise you there were some good bits of this holiday.
Well, no, I was going to say those are the things that over the last couple of weeks has filled us with a sense of transcendence, joy.
Yeah. And the I mean, I did mention it as a throwaway comment, so I'll just finish it. We also had to call the police at one point, which was a very surreal situation. We didn't have to, but we chose to. We thought something horrible was going on upstairs in our hostel.
I think something horrible probably was going on upstairs in our hostel, in fairness. It wasn't exactly the experience that you want to have on holiday, but I don't think it's necessarily...
No, it was the strangest holiday. But yeah, I just realised I did a throwaway comment. It's fine. We're not hurt. I hope the people up there weren't hurt, and it was all overseen.
Well, the people up there definitely weren't hurt, possibly as a result of us calling the LAPD.
Exactly,
that's how I'm writing it in my head.
Yeah, but, it was all over when they turned up.
But I feel very sorry for the fact that that's their life. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing that we
won't get into that.
Go into.
But aside from that, everything was really nice.
What a strange description of our holiday.
We saw Jack Black.
Okay, right. So it gets better than that, actually. So at the end of we're really just doing this. This is just a travel log, but a completely confused one, jumping around from thing to thing. No, it's fun.
I'm so sorry. It's just going all over the place.
So we were in Quentin Tarantino's Greer themed coffee shop called Coffee.
Yeah. Which is on the side of his cinema, but not the one he owns, a different one.
Or he possibly owns that one too, but not the famous one he owns.
Like a Vista cinema, I think.
And we'd gone in there quite a bit. It's a nice place, really nice place actually, good fun.
Cool. It had like loads of videos, it had loads of old cereal boxes. It was very kind of hip in that way, but not in a kind of the way that I think cereal cafes were a thing for a bit, and they were like trying really hard and really hip. This was somehow not that hip. It was just good.
I think it was a good example of just somebody being like, I've got all the money in the world.
Here's the things I like.
I want to make some stuff that I like.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, and I don't really need to worry too much about it making a profit. But I mean, it was obviously very... I don't mean to suggest it wasn't making a profit. It was obviously,
but it was very basics.
Yeah,
in a nice,
but it was basics,
nice
but
way.
Also just the inside of someone's brain.
Yeah,
just and like, here's all the cool things I've got. Let me just put them all in there.
Exactly that, with a tiny little weird like VHS viewing booth that you can't fit anyone in. Just because.
But we went there most mornings, pretty much. Well, we went there a few times anyway, and on one of the number of occasions we arrived. It's quite small. I went to the thing to order a coffee, and I turned round to ask Siobhan what she wanted, and turned round and directly behind her, one of her shoulders,
like a shoulder, like he was on my shoulder, basically,
was Jack Black's face. He's the same height as you. You like it when people are the same height
We
as you.
do definitely. I think we've discussed before all the amazing people that are 5'3", Danzig and Dio being two of them. And now I can add Jack Black to that. There's definitely more than that as well, but we'll go there one day.
But yeah, it was nice. We didn't bother him, but we did sit there on the table just over from him all for an hour or something.
Yeah,
and it was quite nice.
Co-patrons.
But there was a fellow who was obviously very excited to see him, and he did a little video for his kids or something.
He
was just fine.
Yeah, it was nice.
But it was just that was a bit surreal.
But it was pleasant. Everything's nice.
There you go. Everything's nice.
Yeah.
The birds were singing and the sun was shining. Although the sun shining, as we've already covered, was not a nice thing.
But yeah.
Well, let's just skip the first bit, shall we then? Because we've pretty much just talked about a load of stuff.
Yeah.
Have you got anything that's filled you with transcendence? So this is going to have very little structure, this episode.
Well, and also, let's just get real. We've had a week of jet lag that I think I got over maybe last night. So the brain has not been the best switched on. We've both gone straight into 5 days of work. So yeah, sorry if this is scattered all over the place. It just is what it is. I guess transcendence and awe and meaning and all that jazz. There's a few bits from holiday that may or may not come up, so we'll just leave them to the next bit. But not to be copying you, but you read a book and brought up the said book maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, and I finally just got around to reading it, and I'm now reading kind of a follow-up book that is of a similar topic but from a slightly different point of view, and I think the topic alone is really interesting. It's about this kind of a first half of life and a second half of life.
Not a second-hand life.
Not a second-hand life.
Different.
Well, I mean, we are just life after
well,
life
we
after
are.
life.
We are second-hand lives. In fact, we're probably 1,000.
Gosh, we've had so many lives. And actually, we'll get onto that
no,
with
I don't mean that,
the next bit as well. Right. But anywho's.
Yeah. I think we meant different things then. But anyway, I wasn't suggesting that we had lived lives before. But anyway, you go ahead.
So there was a book you brought up called Falling Upwards by Richard Rohr. He's a Franciscan monk?
Yes.
And writes really well. Beautiful book. You recommended it tons a few episodes ago, so I won't go over it too much. But it's just that I got a lot out of it as well. And I think it's something that I think if you've got you only have to have a slightly open mind to find it incredibly useful and helpful. And I think even if you don't believe in everything that a Franciscan monk believes in, he does a really good way of writing and including a lot of, Buddhist stuff, Stoic stuff, all kinds of Christianity stuff. And it is heavy on the Christianity, but with a very direct human aspect that everyone could relate to, which I just thought was really interesting. And I got a lot from it, and it was just really beautiful. And yeah, just this kind of idea about... So the other book I'm reading, just to quickly go there, is Arthur Brooks. We've talked about him before. He's talked about this kind of different types of intelligence that you have, and that kind of falls into these two parts of your life. And it is the same boundary, I think, that Richard Rohr talks about.
Well, the boundary isn't clear, is it? It's not an age. It's not like you get to 40 and then this happens. It's that it can happen kind of at any
between
time,
40 and 70, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what Arthur Brooks is saying in his. But his is more about intelligence and what you do when you've been really successful in the first part of your life. It is kind of aimed at like successful, striving people in work related terms, but it does have an element of faith because he's Catholic and he is also very into his Buddhist stuff. He knows a lot about Stoicism, so it kind of follows similar themes. But what I really liked about the Richard Rohr one was this kind of idea of being able to be more open to faith or spirituality in your second half of life in a way that you actually just can't have in your first. It's getting... I'm not quite got my head around it entirely because, he's speaking as someone who's brought up with faith and has always believed in what he's believed in. And I think it's one of them things where it's not about just finding yourself again or being reborn because, otherwise that's kind of poo-pooing having the faith the first half of your life is a way I read it at first, but it's not that. But I find that's the thing I'm kind of pondering around a bit or trying to think about because I just think... Say you got it right on paper from the beginning. Say you had a really meaningful spiritual growth and faith and really good routines. There's still room for you to have this kind of second half of life thing. I think that's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, I think ultimately it's that being born again, as people talk about, i.e. being born again in Jesus, like finding faith, if you like. Is definitely not the same thing as moving into the second part of your life. I mean, those two things are completely different. They operate, I think, you can be born again when you're 14 or something, but that doesn't mean you've moved into the second part of your life.
It's true. So I'm just trying to see the differences between but the kind of having it in the beginning and having the second half of life. With the Arthur Brooks things, it's very easy to understand because it is about intelligence and it's not really ineffable. It's not a spiritual thing, but he does link it strongly to those things. But the Richard Rohr one's given me a lot to ponder about that. And what I really like about it, and what both of them say, is it's not something you can rush along. It's not something you can force. It's just something that you have to be prepared to recognize when it happens. And it usually takes something really difficult. So you don't want to predict when something difficult is going to happen to you or even create the difficulty. It's just what I like is about recognizing there are difficult things that happen in life, and when they come, recognizing them as that and go, oh, is this a window into the next thing, or is this something I can grow from? Does it have to be, it's opening my brain up to those sorts of thoughts that I haven't really finished those thinkings, but it's just interesting to think that way.
Well, I mean, I think there's definitely an overlap there between suffering within Buddhism, right? You kind of have to suffer in order to grow. Yeah. And I'm learning more and more recently that, that's basically the message. Well, I'm going to simplify it, but it's one of the big messages of the Old Testament too. Again, we've said this before, there's so many similarities between all the different spiritual paths and all the different philosophical paths, but one of them is definitely that sort of suffering, going through something. Yeah. And it's not just suffering as simple as that. It's rites of passage and things like that as well, isn't it? It's about boys becoming men and being sent off into the wilderness to sort of and only being allowed to eat while they kill type of thing. It's the most, I was going to say extreme, but extreme's probably not quite the right word, but it's the most obvious.
Well, and I think at the end of the book, it finally comes full circle as to you feel like you really understand the falling upward like message. That kind of, you can only grow by going down. You've got to go down to pick it back up again, and the aim is to always be going a bit higher each time.
Yeah.
Or even if you're not, it's always there's an up. There's always an up, but you can't grow like you just said unless you've kind of fallen a little bit.
Well, there's
but
also
the falling is never a problem, and that's why if we have it super easy all the time, we're never going to grow.
But there's also another side to that, which is about, and I think this is from that book, but it might actually not be, but it's definitely a similar sort of thought. And this one really does involve a chunk of Christian thinking, but this idea that we're created perfectly. So actually, in order to get the falling upwards thing, has this other meaning, which is that really you're not trying to get to something that you're not. You're trying to undo all of the bad things that have been not put in you. I don't even know how to describe it. All the bad things that have affected you, you're actually trying to return to your original form, as it were. And
return is really important. I can't remember which word in spirituality means this, but it is about returning. And in Buddhism, it's all about that. The idea that you are already enlightened. It's just finding it. So it's about, and it's definitely from that book. It's about, you're not striving to be something you're not. You're already good. You're already wonderful, but you've fallen. So you have to be getting back to it.
And I think all spiritual paths, my experience of all spiritual paths before I read that idea, although I love that idea, but I hadn't never thought of it before. But all spiritual paths, that's kind of, you don't realise it, but that's exactly what you do. I mean, my entire experience of the last, I don't know, however long we've been messing around with this stuff, has been getting rid of things. Sometimes adding things to my life, but largely just saying, oh, I don't need that anymore. Yeah. Or I never needed that, or that's really bad for me. Yeah. Why am I doing that? And then the amount of spiritual growth that comes from that is exponential, particularly with like the obvious harmful things. I mean, not to beat on the bush, but beat on the bush. Getting rid of the things that sap your attention, or getting rid of I don't know what, whatever it is that's your crux.
Putting limits in place for the sake of putting limits in place,
and then growing as a result. Yeah, so I mean, exactly. One of the interesting things about the idea of sin, I think, is that you can see that as being somebody saying, again, within the line of the story, somebody saying, I've created you and I've given you a load of rules and you've got to stick to them. And if you don't stick to them, I'm going to punish you. Right? So that just seems like a sort of angry headmaster. Yeah. But actually the reality of what sin is not that at all. It's telling you how to do things so that your life is better. Yeah. Because we all need limits, and we all need to not do loads of stuff that our animal brains want us to do.
Isn't that one of the points of the Adam and Eve thing? It's like they were given a choice and they picked the bad one.
Yeah, I mean that literally is the point of the Adam and Eve.
Yeah, and thing. So it's just that we're all that. Like we all make bad choices, and because we're human and we're made that way. And here's a way to just, here's various ways that various clever people over thousands of years have thought of to try and deal with the human condition that is we make terrible choices, because we're also hardwired to want to survive, and some of those decisions we make to survive are pretty terrible.
Well, yeah, and also survive is kind of this obscure word, isn't it? So what we do now in 2025 to survive, in inverted commas, is not really survival.
No. Or thriving. We're not surviving or thriving. We're just existing.
No. Yeah.
Painfully.
Well, yeah, I don't even know if existing is the right turn of phrase, but anyway. Yeah, out of interest, we can cut this if you don't want to talk about it.
Go for it.
Did Richard Rohr's book have an influence on the fact that you prayed for the first time whilst we were away, Siobhan?
Well, this was going to be my bit, but I didn't know whether to go with it or not. I'm happy to do it.
Good.
Just the background. Actually, we've done the build-up. Dave nearly died, or didn't nearly die, but by the third day of not holding fluids in, we were laughing like a lot about this, but it became a little bit hysterical laughter by the end of Wednesday, because at this point you've not eaten for 4 days. Well, anything you have put in your body has come straight out, so you've not used any.
I should say mine was hysterical laughter from day one, pretty much.
But there's just moments where you're like, I haven't peed in 3 days, because it's all coming out my butt, and I was like, that's funny, but it's actually not funny.
I was a psychiatric nurse for a long time. I deal with very extreme circumstances with gallows humour.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
That's the only way I know how to live.
Oh, it's horrible. Someone tells me like horrific news, and I just go, and I'm like, and I'm a mental. Yeah, again, psychiatric nurses, we're horrible. But so by the third evening, I'm thinking. Because on the Tuesday, it was terrible weather. It's the first proper day where Dave's bedbound. And I just think, all right, I'll go and occupy myself. No one's missing anything of this holiday. Dave, I'm feeling bad that you've come all this way and you're not getting anything out of it. And you're feeling really ill.
I felt much worse because you weren't even ill and you weren't. So, no.
Yeah, but I potted around.
You definitely didn't. Yeah, no, you didn't do anything wrong by going and having a nice time. No.
But then on the Wednesday, it was nicer weather. And so you're thinking, I really wish Dave could be enjoying some of this. It's our anniversary on that day. We've gone out for this lunch, which I feel like I forced you out for. By the time you get there, you're ill. La 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 la. Go back home, go back to bed, and I go for a meander on the beach. And then, it's about like, I don't know, early evening. I go down to the beach. Barely anyone's around because it's actually quite cold. And I just kind of like look around a bit. I'm having these panics. I've started Googling, what do we do? We haven't got travel insurance. Where are the nearest IV clinics? So, because wellness centre of the world, you can get an IV anywhere in these areas. Not that Dave was ever going to agree to it, but just thinking, how the hell do I keep him alive? Because your plan was, if I can get to the plane, I'll be fine. The plane's still 3 days away, and I'm thinking, if you don't absorb some water soon, your organs shut down.
Nah.
And you were starting to cramp that day.
Yeah.
So organs, that's a clear sign that your kidneys and liver have had a bad time, and a couple more days and you're dead. Well, not dead, but you're definitely ill. So anyway, down on the beach, looking around. No one's really around. It's beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. I'm sat looking at the ocean. And I was like, it just popped into my brain. And you know when you're like, all right, it's popped into my brain. Maybe I should like say a little prayer. Because you've told me your stories about some prayer, like messing around with prayers that you did at the beginning.
I mean, messing around is quite
but
correct.
You know, the dabbling, the dabbling in. You read a book on prayer. You told me about it, and one thing you said was you don't have to know what to say. You've just got to say it with intention and really mean it. And I don't know.
Did I say that? That was very wise.
Well, that's kind of I'm summing up.
Oh, all right. Well, you're wise.
I'm fairly sure that's what
one of us is wise.
But I do believe that. I went to a really strange massage therapist once. That there was lots of, I'm feeling your energy, and if I feel strong, you feel weak, and la la la. And you just have to. There's no point going unless you're going to actually believe it for that moment. So in this moment, again, I'm not necessarily 100% sure that I'm talking to anyone, or I've not got a belief system that really tallies with that just yet. So I just thought. But in this moment, I'm gonna truly do it to make sure that I'm giving it an effort, just in case, and because for this moment, I'm gonna just believe that this is happening. So yeah, I did a little, and also I wanted to make sure I spoke it out loud because I think you can think things in your head, but I'm like, no, let me just make sure this is definitely a real, tangible thing.
Yeah, I think speaking out loud is important.
Yeah, I think so.
And if you don't mind me asking, how was it? Did you feel anything? Because I would argue that because I almost, the interesting thing is, make of this what you will, ladies and gentlemen, but I know what I make of it and I don't really care.
Yeah.
Is that almost, I think at almost the exact same time, certainly very similar time, I also got to the point where I was like, I'm praying about this. I think I'm in trouble.
I'm going to go.
And so that's quite interesting. Maybe it's interesting just on a practical level because I'd got to a point where it was starting to get worrying.
Well, I was about to say,
and so maybe we both just hit the same point of like being like we need something else. So I'm not really making too big of a deal out of that, but it's worth acknowledging that the next day I woke up and I was fine.
Like, and I don't mean, and I actually mean this with every. Maybe I don't mean it with every. I don't know. I'm going to just say it. You were miraculously better.
Yeah. I mean, it was extraordinary. I went from being genuinely we were both worried about my actual safety to admittedly having a good night's sleep. I mean, you can explain a lot of this away, and I'm happy to. Like, I'm not really trying to argue that anything miraculous happened, but
also you'd not had a good night's sleep up until this point. Like, I knew, like, practically, we both know we're not silly. If you could hold water in full of electrolytes, just even once, you're probably going to be all right. And you just needed a clear night of sleep to hold in water, to wake up in the morning and not immediately shit it all out. Or even if you do, at least have absorbed the electrolytes that are in it. And then you're on a clear way to getting better. But it was just a quick turnaround. Because I left, you were still asleep. You'd slept. I mean, I was waking up all night doing your respiration rate, checking you weren't dead. It was horrible. But you, every time I woke up, you were dead asleep. And I was like, okay, interesting. Was worried you were going to poo yourself.
Not dead asleep.
No.
Alive asleep.
Alive asleep. Worried you might poo yourself and what that would look like given that I'd heard it in the toilet. And just
it's great being married,
fears.
Isn't it?
Just many fears. And then got up and I went to a gym while we were out in Venice Beach bit. So I went out to the gym. I came back and there you were, fully dressed, having showered, sat in the chair, not just moping in bed. You'd eaten, you drank, and you were like, I have not done anything horrendous this morning. I feel all right.
No, I mean,
I was like, oh my goodness.
I mean, and it was, yeah. I literally woke up and I just felt well.
Yeah.
I mean, I was still kind of obviously. I was tired. You know, I was tired out
from a heat
I hadn't
stroke.
eaten for 4 days and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. No, but the heat stroke side of it, the actual kind of illness bit, had just gone.
Yeah,
completely.
You had no fever anymore.
Yeah,
the fever had gone.
And again, it might have just worked itself out.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to suggest anything specific, but it's just it is an interesting tidbit. So yes, back to my question. Did you feel anything? Did it feel like
I did? It
was going to make a difference?
It's so hard. It's so hard to know. So one thing I really tried not to do, but because I'd acknowledged it was in my brain, which is a problem. Not a problem, but it does detract from this, and you can talk it away all you like. Is I was a bit like, I wonder if I'll feel different. But because you think that, you're then accidentally looking for it a bit. The only thing that did happen, because I also remembered you were like, everything's really visual, there'll be a sign, something will happen.
I don't know if I said that, did I?
Well, no, but
that doesn't sound as wise as the earlier thing
Going
I
into
said.
some of your descriptions of some of the things that have happened to you, there were things. So I'm trying hard not to look for things, but equally in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, will I feel different? Will I see things? I wasn't sure that I felt different, but I opened my eyes and it's not really like that important. And who knows if it was there before, and I'm sure it was there before, but it's just the way it was lined up. The sun was right above the sea and just below it was a lovely, like, you know when you draw a sailboat when you're a kid on the horizon? And I don't think I've ever really seen one on the horizon quite like this. Not that it was stupendous or anything, but it was just really pretty. Just a little sailboat on the horizon, just below the sun. Really pretty scene. So I took a photo of it because I was just like, what if that's important? And it's really pretty, so let me just take a photo of it. But no, nothing major. Just a feeling of... The only feeling I felt really was like, I'm glad I did that, because what if it made a difference? Not that I felt anything different. It was just more because I knew that it would probably... my plan wasn't really even to tell you that I'd done it, but knowing that it would mean something to you, and I knew it would mean something to you even if I never told you I did it. So that was just a kind of, not really a pride thing, but just knowing that I'd done a good thing, even if I wasn't 100% sure of what would then happen. Because I knew I'd done it with good intentions and not looking to get anything out of it. So I don't know that I got anything out of it other than just knowing it was a good thing to do. And I don't really, and I probably haven't really understood it all entirely anyway. But I just had the moment. Yeah, but I just had the moment where I was like, you should do this. And then once I thought it, I was like, well, I looked around, there was no reason not to. So I just thought, okay, for some reason that came into your brain, just do it and see what happens. But yeah, God, that was long. Sorry.
No,
read a book, did a prayer.
Nice. I can't believe that you've never shown me this sailboat that saved my life.
Have I still not showed you it? Sorry, I thought I did show you it. I will show you it later. And if we had Instagram, I'd put it up there to show the world, but we don't have
No,
Instagram,
you wouldn't.
So.
You've already posted apparently enough stuff on Instagram.
I know. But yes.
I don't. I mean, I don't. Mine is probably more of a negative one, but it's probably a good one in the end, because it's specifically about that, really. And you're going to think I'm getting at you, but I'm actually fundamentally talking about myself. But I think this happened to you even much worse.
Oh,
is that so? Obviously, as is probably obvious from the first 40 minutes of this podcast and what we've talked about, and every single conversation we've ever had on this podcast, and probably, like, if you know me, any conversation I've ever had with you, full stop. I don't use my phone very much. I don't use social media. I try and stay off the internet as much as I possibly can, just generally. But I really experienced the addictive nature of all of that stuff by spending 2 weeks away from home, because in a place that we didn't know. Because what happened was, in a very practical way, I sort of almost didn't have much of a choice but to use them. So not social media, because I'm just not on it, so that's fine. But maps and, and just sort of looking at, and if we wanted to go somewhere, we'd have to look up when it was open, and, those sort of little things that I'm sure to most people are just completely normal, and they wouldn't even vaguely think anything of them at all, particularly when they're on holiday, but that probably most of us do constantly in our life, just a continuous stream of like, oh, I need to know this, and then look it up, and then, oh, I need to find out where I'm going, and you look it up. And so I was doing that, and in a way, that's fine. To begin with, it was very practical. It was very much like, we need to get to this place, I'm going to get a map up on my phone. But and without realising it at all, by the time I got sick, probably. And also, I suppose, then we had an iPad, and so the iPad would be listening to music on and whatever, and that's not the sort of stuff that we really do that much. Maybe I do a bit more now.
But not really.
But so it was just this kind of, I started to just engage with these things that I've had really, really firm boundaries on. And the second that I started to engage with them regularly, the boundaries fell apart. And I just found myself, and again, I don't even have social media on my phone, and yet I was continuously picking the thing up and just looking at it, and going to all the different places that something new might have come from, which for me is literally of no interest whatsoever. It's like my email, and again, not many people email me. It's my WhatsApp, and not many people WhatsApp me, and and so it was just this sort of, I just realised, I just saw in myself the sheer kind of addictive nature of this thing, that if you just let it in, and I can't, and I think I've got pretty good boundaries, and I think I've definitely got the right, what I would consider the right attitude towards it, which is that I hate it, and I would never look at it again if I possibly could. And yet even somebody who hates it and would never look at it again, if they start looking at maps, all of a sudden they find themselves just continuously looking at a screen. And I think that, mixed with a few other things, made me realise that, and I've said this to you before, and I think you took this slightly the wrong way, in as much as I think, maybe I'm wrong, but my assumption is that you took it to mean that I didn't really enjoy the holiday, which was not the case at all. I had a lovely time, and also not to say that travelling is bad in any way. But one of the things that, which I think is really positive that I take from it, and I hope this doesn't sound like boasting either, is that what I realised is that being taken out of my everyday life and losing all of my little routines and my sort of all the things that I've set up, and I'm not talking there about comforts, by the way, I'm just talking about like my lifestyle.
Yeah, the time you wake up in the morning, your routines, the things you eat.
And the things I do and the things I don't do, probably more importantly. That stuff going out the window, and it didn't go that far out the window. It's not like we suddenly started eating McDonald's and stuff like that. We
probably the best we ate on holiday that we've ever done.
By far. I mean, had we done 2 weeks of what we used to do when we were on holiday, which would be drinking all day,
and then you get a heat stroke, you'd have fucking died.
I mean, I would have died even if I didn't get the heat stroke, I think. Yeah. By my own hand. But it just made me realise, like, coming back home, and knowing the way that I felt after just 2 weeks of kind of not doing all the stuff that I got used to doing, I realised how good that stuff is, how good it makes me feel, how alive it makes me feel, how my attention is so much better, my focus is so much better. I bought a book with us and I barely read it. And that's just not, that's 2 weeks. Yeah. In 2 weeks, I'd normally read like 4 books.
Yeah, you were worried that if you only took 2, what were you going to do?
Yeah, well, I thought to myself, well, we'll definitely go to bookshops and we'll buy some. But even when we were in the bookshops, it was just sort of like, there's nothing here I want.
Yeah.
Which is just not
true.
Yeah. So it just deadened my brain, I think. And ultimately, what I really appreciate is the fact that, a week after getting back, I now kind of feel back to how I was before.
Yeah.
But also it just made me really appreciate it made me appreciate my life at home.
Yeah.
And it's not that while I was away I was desperate to come home or anything like that. No. But I was glad to come home, and I was glad to come back to my life. And by that, I don't just mean that I eat healthily when I'm here or whatever. I also mean just like going back to, I like my job. I like the things that I do. I like the things that are fundamentally not that easy to do.
You haven't set up a life that you need a holiday from.
No, but
which is how a lot of people treat their holidays. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to get away and get on my holiday. It's like, it's not because they're excited to go where they're going and explore things. It's sometimes that they just, oh God, I just need to get away from what I'm already doing. I'm like, what you're already doing is the thing that you could,
But that's who you are.
That's who you are.
That's your life.
Like, you've got to find a way to like that. And not need to escape it.
Yeah, and by the way, it's not that I've changed my life so that everything is idyllic. I don't mean that. It's purely stoicism, really. It's purely about attitude towards those things. But I was absolutely that person, and this is the example that I used to you, which I think maybe came across slightly wrong. But it's like every holiday I've ever gone on, particularly longish ones, pretty much a week or more. By the end of it, I feel completely like full of ideas of like all of these things that I want to do, and how when I get home I'm going to sort this out, and I'm not going to, we will have always eaten a salad at some point, and I would be like, now I'm going to eat salads. It's amazing. I can't believe I ate this nice salad. I can't believe I like salads or something equivalent. The liking salad equivalent. Yeah. I would, and that was always the way. And to be honest, in fairness, I came up with a lot of my best ideas that way. I would never have done Sham City Roasters if I hadn't gone away. I took a sabbatical from work when I was a nurse 11 years ago, whatever it was. And whilst I was feeling so free, I was about 3 weeks into, I was in LA then as well actually, I was feeling so free and just thought, I'm just going to start a coffee roasting company. I didn't know anything about it, but I came up with the whole plan and stuck to it, and that's what I did for 8 years or whatever. It was
10 years.
10 years. Yeah. It's 10 years. It was. And it's you can still get very cheap merch. By the way, guys, if you want, the coffee's not available anymore. The company is dead, but you can get some very cheap £5 t-shirts from Sham City Roasters on Etsy. One of the reasons that I liked to go on holiday was specifically that. I would come back and I'd be like, I've decided I'm going to start a band in this style or something. And often I wouldn't end up doing it. But sometimes I would. And that was literally one of the things I looked forward to most about holiday. And to be honest, when I looked at this holiday, I thought, God, that's going to be 2 weeks. After about that, I'll get through the first week will be fun, and then the second week I'll just be full of ideas, and me and Siobhan will be like we'll have some really deep conversations, and we'll work everything out about our lives. And then when
you did shit yourself to death.
I know, but ignoring that bit, ultimately I suddenly realised, well, no, actually we do that. Yeah. We do that on a day-to-day basis, so I don't need a holiday to do this anymore.
It's true.
And again, to be clear, it's not that my job is amazing. It's not that I have no stresses in my life. Not by any means. It's not that there's not loads of stuff going on. It's just all about attitude.
Yeah, you're just happy with what you've got.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we all enjoy holiday is because we tell ourselves, I'm on holiday, I have to enjoy myself.
Yeah,
there's no reason you can't just do that when you're walking down to the shops.
Exactly that.
You know?
I agree. Maybe I haven't thought about it in quite as much detail as that, but I definitely felt ready to return, which I think is a really healthy feeling, actually. I think, about, missing the life you have because you really enjoy your life. But also it's the first time ever that maybe not ever, but the first time in a very long time that I've had time off work and then not felt the dread for going back, because you really enjoy your job and I like my job. But there's elements to it that you think, oh God, when I go back, what will have happened when I've been gone? And I did not feel that at all. Jet lag probably helped. I think I was kind of like crazy when we went back, and probably
you were mad as hell. Siobhan.
I was very tired.
Let's not beat around the bush. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't well for a number of reasons, I suppose, but jet lag specific. But you were like a cackling loony.
Driving to work, I was like, I'm actually drunk. I don't think I should have been driving, but no one died. I got to work, everything's fine. But I definitely felt ready to return, and that's not because I didn't enjoy the holiday. It's just it felt long in a good way. It felt really long. It
felt like forever.
Yeah, even when we were there, we were like, gosh, only 3 days ago we were doing this, or only 2 days ago we were doing this.
To say one thing about that, I do wonder a little bit. There's something about days being long when you get up early.
Oh yeah.
Which changed the nature of holiday.
That's true.
And I mean, it's probably about not drinking too, because I suppose you don't have a hangover and you don't sort of waste the morning or whatever. But yeah, I think.
And you can remember it all.
You can remember it all, yeah. So it is interesting because obviously this is a holiday that we've more or less done a couple of times now.
Yeah.
And I mean, those ones, and one of them was about the same length, and that one just seemed to. We did loads of cool stuff, and it was brilliant, but it definitely didn't feel as long as this one.
No,
by any means, like it felt about half the length, probably.
Yeah, definitely. But it was lovely to do, and here's to normal life being very lovely, both our attitudes to it and what we've made. Isn't that nice? But not boasting. Sorry, it is a brag. That's how.
Well, it's a lot of hard work to get there, in fairness.
Exactly.
So, talking about normal life, we really need to move on because we've gone on. We are now going to talk about the UFO cult that we went and visited whilst we were in San Diego.
Yeah, so we spent most of the time in LA, but we did a weekend down in San Diego.
We've spoken about said UFO cult before. If you were interested, there is an episode when we were still doing by the moniker Breakfast Punks. I don't know if it was it was all about this.
I think
cult,
it was specifically.
So it'll be easy to find because the cult is called Unarius.
Yeah.
So if you have no idea what that means, it means you've not been listening hard enough or long enough.
Yeah. And don't Google it. Just go back and listen to our episode. We do a very good job of explaining it.
I had no idea if we do or not.
Don't. We definitely don't.
But do go back and listen to our episode. Unarius. I mean, that episode will explain exactly what they are, but I think I can probably just about do a job of. So Unarius started, I believe, in the 50s or 60s, and it was a guy who got in contact with 32 space brothers.
Yes,
he's 32, isn't it?
Yeah.
Each space brother
over a long period of time,
wrote a number of books about his communication with said space brothers. I believe that each space brother is from a different galaxy. Definitely a different planet. And there are millions of planets that have said space brothers or someone that could be a space brother on it. Yeah.
But there's only 32 in this confederation that he somehow contacted the leaders of.
And to be clear, Earth is not in said confederation, but it's gonna be. But the thing is, and this is the really nice thing, in order to become the 33rd space brother, I assume, Earth, or this man, will become the brother, I suppose, no, he's dead. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Uriel, his wife is now the space brother.
But she's also dead, so I don't know what's happening
She
now.
still exists in some form, apparently.
I think it's a cult without a rudder, I must say.
Yeah. I think it's not long for this world, but I really hope it carries on.
Me too. It's like when L. Ron Hubbard died, that crazy psychopath man took over Scientology, and had he not, and they just been like, well, he's dead, we'll just sort of go on, see what happens. Probably Scientology wouldn't be quite as rich as it is now. But and comparing the two isn't entirely outrageous, but I will say Unarius is much kinder and nicer.
Very kind. They don't trap you in the building, let's put it that way.
So the Earth needs to become a place of peace.
Yeah.
And it needs to do a bunch of different things to make itself better in order to become one of this confederation. I believe it's a very simplistic. I mean, he wrote loads of books about it. His wife.
Well, he wrote a fair few, but he didn't actually live very long.
No,
Uriel
he didn't.
Did most of it.
Yeah, but actually, officially, I don't think either of them wrote these books. They're all the Space Brothers. They're translating them from the Space Brothers. Yeah. Again, it's quite confusing. But so he died. Then his wife Uriel took over. She appears to be a fantastic
real
human.
name Ruth Norman.
Yeah.
And Ernest and Ruth Norman. I can't remember what he's got a funny name when he was around. I can't remember how they referred to him now. And she was Uriel. And please do look up a picture of her because she's stunning, or was stunning.
Yeah. And she really just doubled down because, I mean, if you see pictures of them from the time that it started, they just seem like a very sort of normal, quite serious couple. Yeah. I think he was the doctor of something.
Yeah.
And when he died, I think this is fair to say, although again, I'm no historian of this group, but she just doubled down on being fantastic. Yeah. She bought outrageous costumes. Yeah. Everything became extraordinarily colourful. They opened a film studio and made extraordinary movies in the sort of 70s. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of them at this point in the 70s, and they had quite a lot of resources, a decent amount of money, I guess. They open this place that's in El Cajon, which is a suburb of San Diego. And San Diego is a city, I suppose, but it's not exactly a very populous city. And so a suburb of that, you can imagine. I mean, it's literally just sort of...
It's like a crossroads.
A crossroads with some shops on it. And then one of them is this massive building that just has Unarius Academy of Science on the front. It's fantastic. As far as I can make out, nothing has really been changed since the 70s. Or at least if it's been updated, it's been updated with exactly the same style.
Yeah.
And so she just absolutely made this thing fantastic. There's documentaries about it, which are available, I think, on YouTube. The main documentary that was made quite recently is, frankly, a little bit dull, but it does give you the story.
Yeah, it starts good, and then it's just an awful lot of their movies, which one theme.
Yeah, and some of the friends that we made whilst we were there are in the movie, so that was quite exciting for us, but will be less exciting for you. But I think you can watch the movies. There's loads of stuff about it. There is a brilliant... I think that if you want to... And we will have said this on the podcast that we did about it. But there is a brilliant... I guess it was supposed to be a TV show, I think, but it was never released. So it's on YouTube, where Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, in the early 90s, I think.
92 or 94, yeah.
He goes to this place and sort of interviews them all about it. And he's a very awkward interviewer. I mean, it's not a good interview, but it is extraordinary. I mean, it's well worth... It's well worth spending an hour of your time
just for
watching.
Seeing it in a very, not real way, but the documentary is made kind of with a lot of Unarius consent. They are given consent to be filmed for the Jello thing, but there's a lot of preparation for the UFO cult documentary that I think is from 2019, whereas the Jello thing is him kind of trying to empathetically infiltrate it.
Yeah, I don't know how much empathy he really shows.
No, well, I think he's trying to be a bit of a difficult, ask silly questions and be a bit difficult and digging. Yeah. But it's not pure mockery. It's mocking, but it's not really pure mockery.
He does end up in a fantastic outfit.
He does, which they all are in, and everyone's doing it, so it's fine.
But so at that point, this is the early 90s, Ruth Norman is not there, and he thinks that she's dead, but he ends up talking to her on the phone. Yeah. But she must have died fairly shortly after that. And I can't really tell you the story from that point forth, but ultimately it's just carried on. They've obviously lost a lot of members, not that we realise this. And so we had booked this holiday ages ago, and realised that we were just up the coast. I mean, it's about a 4-hour journey from them during their actual big festival, which is called the Conclave of Light. So we decided that we would spend the first week in LA, then go down for the weekend, see the Conclave of Light, and then go back to LA and spend the rest of the time there, which is what we did. Exactly.
The Conclave of Light is featured in both documentaries, and it looks fantastic. All the footage looks fantastic, because back, like you said, in the 70s, they had a lot of members. So there'd be hundreds, I'd say a couple of hundred people, lining the streets of this tiny little town, El Cajon. It's basically a crossroads, like we said. And they drive around this car. They've got a Cadillac car that they've painted, and they've put a UFO on the top that they released doves out of on the Conclave of Light to show as a sign of peace and all this other stuff. And it started in the 70s. And it was really, everyone's put their best, glitzy, glittery, space alien. It looks like Star Trek. They've put the best garb on, and they're just parading around. And the people of El Cajon must be like, what the fuck has just moved in? So we were a bit excited that it might be a bit like that.
Well, no. So what I was certainly expecting was that it would at least be a parade. I thought that basically it was a parade. I thought that's what they did. I thought they opened the centre so you can go in and you can have a look. But my understanding was that it was basically just a parade.
Yeah, go outside and ride along with this
car. But I mean, in the past they've also had other things, I guess. But so that's what we were expecting, just to go and have a little look. We thought they'd all be fantastic, be funny a bit, be nice a bit. It's something we're interested in lots of different ways. I mean, both, let's be realistic. Hopefully this comes across on this podcast in both sort of a mocking way, but also in quite a fond way.
Very fond.
I love people that have, genuinely, without any mockery, I love, and I think you love, people that have unusual lifestyles and unusual beliefs.
I mean, Heaven's Gate, and I'm not mocking them, I adore the people that, it's sad, it's really sad, but I love Heaven's Gate people for that kind of just having an incredible belief. The problem with that was like it's a cult in the way that it ends negatively, and people do get a little bit, swayed into killing themselves, which is horrible. Whereas this one has elements of all of that. It's fantastic. It's about aliens, but it's actually incredibly well-meaning. It is the perfect cult, and it's not really a cult.
It's the best UFO cult out there.
But also, I call it a cult, and then I feel bad about it. But actually, the documentary that had their full blessing is called Unarius UFO cult and such and such.
I mean, I think it has to ignore. Although they do sort of suggest that it's not really religious and it's very scientific. They're very keen to state that it's scientific.
Well, it's an Academy of Science.
I would argue what I saw wasn't terribly scientific. But ultimately, so we arrived. I was quite intimidated. You were much better than I was. We went to a coffee shop first. There's almost nothing in this town.
No, apart from a very nice coffee shop.
A really nice coffee shop. And I was sort of, I mean, I definitely would have gone no matter what. But by that time, I was a little bit like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. This now feels a little bit weird. Yeah. We'd gone and peeped at the building before it was open.
Well, and there was no one there.
There was no one there, and I was like, what are we sort of walking into?
It starts in 45 minutes, and there's no one here. There's meant to be 100 people in the road.
Why are the roads not closed off? I thought this was going to be a parade. And so we had a coffee, and you were much better than I was, and we sort of walked around, and I was definitely questioning myself, and you were just like, "No, come on, let's just go." And you were totally right, of course you were. So anyway, we walked in, and it turned out that this thing was not a parade at all. It was a 3-hour-long conference/musical performance with. There were people there by this point, but I think there was chairs set out. So this is how many they were expecting for about 40. Nowhere near 40, maybe 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh no, about 25 seats.
They added a few at the back when somebody else turned up halfway through.
But that's who they were expecting.
Yeah.
Like when we walked in, and I saw how few seats. I was like, oh God, no one's coming. Oh my goodness, no one's coming.
And of course there's there's not really many of them either. So I mean, I think in total there were 9 or 10. Yeah,
there were 7 in the singing bit, and then 2 of them were doing the filming at that point.
Yeah.
And then a couple of people not dressed quite as glamorously. So maybe about 12.
Maybe
legit working.
And they were all they were live streaming this thing on Skype to, I guess, some other people. Yeah. Who were involved in the cult. I don't know how many people would have signed up to that. It was free. You can watch it for free.
Yeah, you didn't have to do much to do it.
No, but you would have had to have given 3 hours of your life, and I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Next year,
oh no, well maybe, but I'm not sure whether doing like what. So we had a lovely experience, and we'll get to that. But to have watched that online, I'm not sure that would have been a good use of your 3 hours. To be honest,
janky thing ever.
And everything technically, keeping in mind this is the Academy of Science, technically everything went wrong.
Everything.
No one really knew.
And
what
they
were
didn't
doing.
seem particularly shocked or bothered by it. Like they'd be like, and now we're going to perform this, and then it would take maybe 10 minutes to get the sound and everything set up, and they'd just be stood there, kind of like not making conversation and not like looking worried, just like this is how it goes. You think you're live streaming this to people, and it's just like, and now this,
and there's some people, there's a load of people there who have come. I mean, and I would say, I would describe the people that clearly weren't a part of it who had come mostly as probably being similar-ish to us. Most people were kind of vaguely alternative looking, youngish. There was a few there was an older couple that kind of just arrived and obviously didn't have it. They were just, I guess they were tourists and they just walked in.
Yeah,
they were probably just looking around the town and they saw this weird place and thought, oh, that's open, let's have a look in there. And they looked surprised.
And I think they walked in whilst the singing was happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But so we'll get to kind of describe what happened in those 3 hours. But before we do, because I really don't want this to sound mean, because it is important to say that it was lovely.
Oh, I did not stop grinning and smiling.
Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I mean, in so many ways, you could be a person who just laughs at it. And there were a few times where we both really had to not giggle. But the people could not have been nicer. There was, what was the lady's name? Who sort of welcomed us?
Jennifer, I think. No,
I can't remember. But she was just lovely, and she just wanted us to be really comfortable there. Yeah. She was amazed that we'd come from the UK. There was a second where she thought we'd come all the way from the UK.
Honestly,
just for that.
They were just
and
like
her little eyes
comment.
just absolutely like.
But also
up.
terror as well. Like she was just like,
have you come from the UK for this?
She was like, where have you come from? The UK. And she was like, the UK? Oh no, you didn't just come for this. And you're literally selling the event. And she's terrified that you've come all this way, which gives you it's like a foreshadowing of the event that's about to happen.
But that was clearly purely out of a place of care. She was just like a kind person that was like, oh my God, we haven't actually prepared for this as much as we should have. Someone's come from the UK.
But then also it got round a little bit, not in a kind of, oh my goodness, but then people were like, oh yeah, you're the people from the UK.
Yeah.
Want to talk to you about all the mystics that they think they know from the UK as
well.
But
But they were lovely. I mean, they could not have been nicer. Some of them a bit wacky. Some of the ideas that were expressed to us. Some of the things that were described. Some of the sentences didn't entirely add up with each other, Like there was people that were definitely sort of had slight flight of ideas and things. But as far as I could make out, they were all, and some of them some of them you could recognise had been there since the Jello Biafra interview.
Yeah, I'm convinced of it.
So they'd been around for a long time. They were all older. And they put on this show, and the reason, one of the reasons why the show was funny, was because, I think I'm right in saying this anyway, and if I'm wrong, then it was what I was thinking. So it's what made me laugh. Was that ultimately what they think that they're doing is that the Space Brothers are these perfect beings, and they are channeling the Space Brothers' creativity to make themselves creative. So one of the arguments is there's a guy that paints loads of pictures and that he basically couldn't paint. And so he gets the Space Brother to show him how to paint, and then he makes these amazing pictures. And the pictures are kind of cartoony, but they're all right.
They're very good.
Not bad by any means, but they're not high art. And I think ultimately what they were saying was more or less we're channeling the Space Brothers to make this amazing art.
Yeah, and here's some of the art and
everything was going wrong. There was no one knew the words. No one sort of sung in the same manner. So there was one person there was a lady that was sort of doing opera type singing, and then there was a couple of people there that obviously weren't really singers and were just sort of there, which was lovely. I mean, they were just joining in and having a nice time, but. It wasn't the greatest rendition of "All You Need Is Love" that I've ever heard. But if I may say,
it was the greatest. It was the greatest.
I will never forget.
I can still hear it.
Never forget it ever. I think that, I mean, in so many ways you could argue this in like a. It's kind of like, that really dodgy DIY music that just ends up coming out the other side sounding like the most perfect music ever. Like bad production, not very well played.
But then you think everything is perfect about it. It's so fun. You don't want it cleaned
ultimately,
up.
The earliest Minor Threat recordings, some of them weren't in tune, and and they weren't perfect players, and nothing. The production wasn't very good. It was in a cupboard, but it couldn't be better. Like you couldn't do that better.
Yeah,
and
it feels.
I don't want to compare these people to Minor Threat, but I have, and I will.
You should.
And I definitely should, because it couldn't have been better but it also couldn't have been worse.
Yeah, Imperfectly Perfect is what someone who really, really likes them went up to them and said it was, and they meant it really kindly, and I was like, no, that is accurate.
It was absolutely accurate.
There was. Because the other thing that they made very clear was that they do everything. So these people are the choir. They're also the only people that run the building. They're the people that run the classes. They're going to run all the classes the following day. They also have a full sound and lighting and video setup that is very professional with a soundboard, and they just do it. But they have no idea what they're doing, and all of them just interchange all over the place. And my favourite chap was the one that was running the soundboard, was entirely responsible for the sound. He was overseeing the laptop that was doing the Zoom feed, and he also at some point, because he can play the violin apparently, and I don't think the Space Brothers were being very kind with the creativity levels they gave him. They didn't
fill him with the violin skills.
No. So there was one chap that had come from
New York.
The guitarist was from New York. There was someone from like Minnesota or something that had come and played classical music on the piano, saying
he was quite good, actually.
He was incredibly good and very funny. Yeah. Then he was like, I'm playing a song now, and so is going to play the violin. And he kept stopping, starting, giving the funny looks at the piano player, like, oh God, this is going wrong. You could just tell, like, bumbling fool, not having a good time. He went back and sat back down. The guitarist and the opera singer got up, and then he obviously realised, oh God, I'm in this one as well. So fiddled with the sound a bit. I mean, they were 10-minute gaps in between each song because of said issues, like a man going and sitting down, forgetting that he's in it, having to fiddle with the Zoom. Sorry, they can't hear you on Zoom. So everything stops for about 15 minutes while someone tries to fiddle with something, whilst they're all muttering, gosh, I've got to do 12 jobs. And it was just wonderful. But
sorry, we should say, just to be clear as well, so one of the reasons that they kept saying Zoom apparently had updated itself that day. And so that had just completely... I feel a little bit like, and maybe I'm wrong about this, because maybe Zoom updating is a big deal and does completely change everything. But they were saying they'd set everything up, and then overnight Zoom updated and it ruined everything.
They blamed a lot
on
this Zoom
that
update.
Feels a little bit like the sort of... When my dad is screaming at Windows 2000 because he can't make it open his email... because he's not clicked the button that says open email.
And it must have been the update.
It's the update, yeah.
Exactly. I can't believe they update it too often.
It did sort of feel along those lines.
But he got up eventually after about 5 minutes rest and started playing the violin with them. And actually what they were, just to be clear, very beautiful. Someone had gone the year before and read a poem that was to the Space Brothers, inspired by them. And this man had gone, oh my goodness, when I heard it, I felt so inspired.
By the way, the person who wrote that poem was that man with the violin. I don't know if
no way.
Yeah, definitely was.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's even nicer. Yeah.
Oh no, but it's even sadder when. Oh no. So then, the guitarist is like, I've put music to that poem, and I think we've made it full circle. And I'm really glad that today we're going to perform it. Might be a bit rusty because we don't do this too often. Can I have so and so up to sing and so for your violin? They start, and he does about 10 seconds of this violin. And then just starts shaking his head, walks off and comes and sits back down behind the camera where we're sat. Just says to the man, like, I just can't do it. I just couldn't do it. But just walks off in the middle of the performance. It
looked like a little boy, sort of not really throwing a tantrum, but just sort of being really sad with himself. Just like, I didn't do that well. Yeah. And then just walking off stage.
I'm doing 12 things at once today. But
the beauty of the song was that man did a sort of like 60s-y sort of folksy song. It was him and his guitar. But the woman he'd got up to sing along with him was doing the opera voice. So it was just this complete bizarre sound that they made together, which was quite nice in a way, but was not right. It's crazy.
I can still hear her voice singing Heal the World. But just in a way that I'm like, I think I like that song now, but it's painful in my brain. They also sang a song and they said, sing it if you know it, which is the song they wrote for the Space Brothers. Yeah. That was just like, it sounds like...
But that one, they just before they did it, because they'd had the guy on the piano was accompanying them, and they said, I can't remember his name, but whatever his name was, hasn't had a chance to learn this one yet. Oh no, he hasn't worked this one out yet. He hasn't worked this one out yet, so we use the original recording from the 70s, and it was on the guy who's doing the sound. It was on his phone.
Oh god!
And of course, he hadn't thought to himself, I better get that set up and ready. So they said, so we're now going to do this big song, and you'll probably all know it, and you should sing along. And then all of a sudden, he just started going through his bag, trying to find his phone. Then he was furiously trying to open his phone. Then he was trying to work out what lead to plug the phone into. And then it wasn't loud enough, or it didn't play initially. Then it wasn't loud enough, and that must have gone on for about 15 minutes. And it was very entertaining to watch. But I don't know what it must have looked like on Skype.
Well, no, because then at this point the sound disappeared on Zoom. So then they sang it, and I remember the main woman with a very stern face saying, "Did they hear the arrival? We are going to have to sing the arrival again. Like they need to hear it."
It was very important to them all, which again made it so much more beautiful. Because I don't want to mock these people. Like all of this stuff was so important to them. Yeah. It was their their yearly celebration of the thing that they live their life for.
There was such a cute bit at the beginning where the cutest man who runs the building, I think at least he's one of the main people now. He was giving a little speech. He was very eloquent, and he's talking about how wonderful it is that we're all there, and a little bit about Unarius. And then he's about to move on, and someone's like, "Oh my goodness, we haven't shown the flowers." And you're like, "Wow, what are these flowers? Oh my goodness!" And then someone runs through quickly with this bouquet of fairly average lilies and roses, going, "So and so from this place has sent us these flowers, so we just want to show them and thank them." Okay, and now we can move on. What on earth? And that was just right at the beginning. You're like, this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and it was so good. And it really was. And again, it's important to laugh at it, and it's slightly gallows humour, but I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed it. How many did you?
Well,
did
we
you?
haven't even explained the second half of that day either. So sorry, just to say, beautiful choir. There's been some videos about Unarius that the man's hodgepodge together, which is beautiful. We then go for a buffet lunch, which is here's a bowl of cookies,
it was so
some
nice.
punch, and some crisps, which someone demolished just without any shame. And I was
there was someone that was just there for the buffet.
Just there for the
she
for
just
the meager.
she just went in there and just went at it.
They were so cute. Like, we've put on a spread, and I was like, oh my god, they've put on a buffet. That's so cute. You go and see it, and you're like, oh, well, I wouldn't have.
It's kind of
mentioned this, to be honest. It's a bowl of crisps, but that's very cute.
It was kind of the American equivalent, because obviously there's not really, they have different foods available, but it was the American equivalent of what your nan might do when you come round, like bourbons, hobnobs, bag of crisps,
but jar of maybe onions, and some flat coke,
flat coke, yeah.
But we were in the most beautiful room, and we can't really get into it too long. Oh my god,
the room was extraordinary.
Just an extraordinary room that just outrageous looking.
I mean, the whole place was extraordinary.
Just outrageous.
It was. If you are ever in the area, honestly, I cannot recommend going and seeing it, because it's bonkers, but it is absolutely beautiful.
Speaking of bonkers and beautiful, I feel like you were going to gloss over the afternoon, which was
please go ahead.
Fantastic. So on the schedule, it said, in the afternoon, we're going to speak to people from Vixel. So let's just be very clear what these Space Brothers are. They, what Unarius say these Space Brothers are. There are millions of planets capable of human life. So this is specifically, when they say alien and Space Brothers, they are actually referring to planets that have very similar conditions to Earth, ever so slightly different, but that can produce human or humanoid life. And so these Space Brothers are not aliens, like they're going to have funny eyes and like sci-fi movie. They're probably going to be humans, and they look like us.
They kind of look like comic book characters according to all of the representations of them.
Yeah,
sort of quite handsome comic book, sort of like Buck Rogers.
Exactly. And the whole point of all of them is they've all managed to advance beyond our capabilities. They're really, really much more advanced than us, and they're waiting for us to get better by our own means, because they're not here to show us how to get better. We have to figure it out for yourselves, because that's only true growth, a bit like what we were talking about earlier. And then when
to be clear, Jesus is one of the Space Brothers.
Jesus was a Space brother.
But anyway,
Jesus of Nazareth was a Space brother. There's a book on
Jesus of Nazareth and Nikola Tesla.
Nikola Tesla. He'll be gutted to know that this is what his legacy is. He's one of there's 4 pictures that exist up the top of above a walkway at some point, and he's definitely one of them as the original Space brother. But anyway, so one of the things they think they can do is communicate with these Space Brothers that are these human characters and everything else. And so they said we're going to have an interview with members of the planet Vixel. So then you walk back in, and there's just the same, like 4 of them that were singing not that long ago are now just sat in like an interview panel style fashion. There's one of them that's going to interview the other 3, and they just, without dropping any kind of like, we are now going to explain this, they just say, right, we are, and they've changed names, because then what they're alluding to is they are no longer their original names. They are now channeling these Space Brothers from the planet Vixel. And they don't explain that fully at all.
No, but
it's just assumed that you all understand that is what's happening.
Well, no. So, I don't think they were channeling at that point. So they were then doing something which they describe as psychodrama. So I think
okay.
Again, you're totally right. It wasn't explained, but I'm pretty sure that just to give them the benefit of the doubt, because they were going to be channeling a Space Brother the next day.
Oh yeah, true.
You had to pay for that one.
Yeah.
But I think it was a psychodrama, which is kind of like channeling. And I know this is the spirit that the films were made in the 70s, was that you kind of, it is drama, it is dramatic, but you're taking on the spirit of a Space Brother and then kind of acting out what they would be doing, but saying. It was very much presented as they were just suddenly these Space Brothers, without question.
And they went by different names all of a sudden. They had sassy personalities, some of them. One got misnamed at one point and went, don't worry, we've only just met today. And it was just all very like, what on earth is happening? And then they interviewed them in this really like, it's bonkers that what they're doing. But they interviewed in really sensible ways. So they're like, So on Vixel, you are the health minister. And so we've got these machines that scan you. So can you tell us a bit more about that? And then they get these pictures up, which are just these like computer generated mental images. And they're like, yeah, this is a diagram, or this is a photo of the image resonator that we have that can see past traumas and can predict future illnesses. So this person has a blur over their heart, and that's because 2 millennia ago they were a Chinese warrior that got stabbed in the heart. So this means that right now they've got heartburn, and this is why. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? They then go to the next person, who's the education minister. What can we learn from the education of the children in Vixel? And it's just like proper question time. But by the way, you're also channeling or psychodramaing out people from the planet Vixel, where there are, what is it? They just blew up a picture of a rose, literally just a yellow rose, and said, yeah, this is our national flower. It's like 30 foot tall.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of it. And you're like, what the fuck?
I mean, I think that at that point, it had I not spent a bit of time with them and got a certain impression, I think I would have thought it was people taking the mickey.
Yeah, but they
serious. Definitely weren't. They definitely weren't. But it felt like just the sort of practicalities of it, like you say, like taking a rose and then just saying, "Oh, this is a photo of the flower from our planet."
Yeah.
But whoever took that photo knows that it's just a rose.
Yeah.
Just saying it's 30 foot doesn't. There's no. You can't accidentally do. You can't think that is a photo. So there must have. I don't know. But then they would. Well, they would probably describe it as then the rose was doing a psychodrama too.
Oh yeah.
So
true.
they know that the rose looks like the thing, and so whatever.
Also, if anyone's interested in the science of how the Space Brothers are going to do this, we're going to have a massive I don't know how they're going to do it, but perpetual energy. This is where Tesla comes in. There's this big.
It's the
structure.
Tesla coil, isn't it? I think, but they've made it on or they're going to make it on a huge scale.
I can't remember what they call it, but they do name it something. It's going to be this massive, it looks like an Eiffel Tower thing, but it's going to be humongous. It's going to be one of them, and it's going to power the Earth. So look forward to that, guys. But we don't have the technology yet, but the Space Brothers are going to, let us know what that is soon. So that'll power the Earth, and we won't have to do fossil fuel stuff anymore. The other wonderful thing that's going to happen, apparently, is all 32 planets are going to turn up in their spaceships. The spaceships are going to land on top of each other, these specially created spaceships, to create this 33-story building, because we're going to create the last one, don't know how. We're going to land that on the top, and this massive structure that's just going to tower off of Earth is going to be the university where we can all learn how to be better. It's going to be really,
and
really
it's
wonderful.
Planned out, I guess, because each flying saucer is slightly smaller than the one before it, so it makes a perfect pyramid.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they've arranged that. Really.
No idea how they've arranged it, but
but there's
sure
models
they've
of
got
it.
in
There's models of all of this stuff.
of
There's lots of models actually in the place generally, which are all again absolutely beautiful and really well made, but just bonkers, and like also, wonderfully bonkers.
Well, also just to note, there was a year that she had.
I think it was like 2004 or something.
It was something like that, because it's mentioned a lot in the Jello Biafra bit. And so it was definitely it's interesting that the year came and went, and they do address that. I think it's just that we weren't ready.
That's it. Yeah.
Which is very Heaven's Gatey. This is where I always feel for them when they can predict something so specifically. I just think, gosh, when that doesn't happen, it's going to be unfortunate. And it's going to crush you, or you're going to just find your way around it. Same with flat earthers when they're proved that it's not.
Well, it either shows that your belief is absolutely pure and true. Like whoever says that, like in 5 years' time, the Space Brothers are coming back.
Yeah.
You really put yourself on the line there. Yeah. Or it's chancery. It's kind of like I can get 5 years worth of money out of these people or whatever.
And also, just to be very conspiracy nasty about it, Ruth Norman definitely knew she wouldn't be alive for that year that she plucked out. yeah, she was like, if she'd have survived to that age, she'd have been about 110. So
yeah, but I think that they thought she was going to live.
Well, she does truly beve that she actually hasn't died, so that's true.
Well, that as well.
That's true.
And I'm sure they can channel her, so she's still answerable.
Yeah, that. She's still on. Well, she's probably the one. She's off on some spaceship somewhere. She's gone.
I tell you what, wherever she is looking like
fantastic.
$1 million.
Literally,
no question.
Fantastic woman.
So we've really gone on. We probably need to wrap this up in a way, but I just want to. There is just one, and we were going to talk about going to a mega church, but we might have to wait till next episode to do that.
Next time.
But which was not, by the way, nothing to do with Unarius as a separate entity. But here's how the day. Here's how it was a banging weekend. Here's how it was. Here's how the day finished. Every year they release doves from the flying saucer. So we were all so after 2.5 hours or whatever of watching songs and psychodramas, and having a lovely little buffet and just having lovely chats with these people that were again. I'm sorry, I know I keep saying this, but they were so cool and amazing. Or maybe not cool or amazing, but they were lovely.
They were sweet
really lovely
and incredibly well-meaning.
We were all ushered out to the car park, which is just around the side, where the Cadillac that says "Welcome Space Brothers" on the side and has a big flying saucer on top was waiting for us. It took them a long time to set this up. There was a speaker issue that they were trying to set up
because of the man with the violin.
The man with the violin had to go outside and do all the sound outside as well. He obviously wasn't very happy about it. And
they couldn't do it without the music.
They couldn't do it without the music, and the music was
from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah,
the music.
And it took a long time for that to start. So these poor doves, just to be clear, inside this flying saucer is stored loads of doves.
Also, someone behind is also, because at some point, sidebar, a student from a local college has turned up in the middle of it, announced and been like, I need to make a documentary about you guys. Are you happy if I can do this? It's from a school project. I'm then going to write a film about it. And they kind of looked at each other and were like, yeah, whatever.
They were really cool with him because, I mean, they were really cool with him.
He was possibly knocking them. Yeah. He's then stood behind us talking to one of them, and she's going, yeah, we used to be able to get 33 doves for all of the planets, but got a problem with the dove guy, so I think there's only 15 in there.
It was 12.
And you're just like, what is going on?
No, they actually announced that. They literally announced that. They just said, I know normally we have 32, but we've had a problem with our doves, guys, so we've only got 12. I mean, it's just everything that could go wrong went wrong.
So bad.
But so anyway, they were trying to get this music started. Again, the doves, I mean, it's hot. It's hot.
Dave's getting heat stroke.
I'm getting heat stroke at this point. So, I mean, these poor doves are inside this flying saucer, which is made of, I don't know what. Probably like paper mache or something. It's not, doves. And I can't imagine how did they get 32 in there. Anyway, so we wait, and then the man does a little speech. It's a really, for them, I think it's a really touching moment. They're all out there in these. We haven't really talked about their outfits enough. I mean, their outfits are just glorious.
They're purple, shiny Star Trek.
Yeah, for the men and for the women.
Gold,
and I mean, the women are much more kind of. Like they've got these sort of ball gowns
they
on.
Look like Grecian goddesses, and the men look like
Star Trek characters.
Star Trek, but from the fancy dress shop. Yeah. Like, there's no irony. It's pure, it's pure crazy shiny glitter and gold.
And I mean, by the way, again, they all look fantastic.
They look fantastic.
So then they release these doves, or they open the things. They very slowly but surely. I don't know. They've got a winch or something. And this flying saucer, the top of it just slowly comes up and off, and then the doves don't fly out for a while. And to be honest, at this point, for a while, I'm thinking they're dead. There's definitely just loads of dead doves in there. But eventually they do fly out, but it's not really glorious. I mean, it's just like one pops out.
Well, no, 1, 2, and then they all come out.
And then they sort of all came out, and it was lovely, yeah. And it was obviously very touching for them, which was really nice at that point. So yeah, and that was the end of the day. We went in and bought a bit of merch. Well, you did, and then we left, but. So I don't know how to sum this up, really. I am keen to say that I think this is true for us both. There was a moment when I genuinely welled up for them, like with joy, with genuine, like it was so lovely, and I remember the exact moment that it was, and it's not really about this, but I just happened to notice this thing, and it was they were singing "All You Need Is Love." And like I say, it was perfectly imperfect. It was but it was like, it was bad, but it was really touching, and they were really putting their all in. And what I realised was halfway through, there's like 6 of them standing in the choir, and one of them, who just looked like the happiest person I think I've ever seen in my life. She was so happy to be singing this song. She was just putting her all in, and she was just, her face. When you see someone and they just are full of joy.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the beauty of anything, any sort of spiritual journey or religion or anything that you can believe in,
Yeah.
if you can believe in it, that's what happens. And so that was what touched me, I think. But ultimately, the thing that made me almost cry was that I suddenly realised that she was so small. She was standing on a box.
No, I know.
And it was just so heartbreaking. I don't know why, but it just hit me.
That combined
and
with
for
her
a
beautiful
second, I
face.
was like, just really happy and being and having to stand on a box so that she was the same height as
especially
them
it's because everyone else in the choir was having a terrible time. Like the two men can sing in time with each other. One of them is the violinist.
I don't know. They were all having a good enough time at that point.
They were
enjoying themselves, but
she was really.
But anyway, the point is that I suddenly found myself, and I mean, this happens to me a lot more than having never cried in my life. Like all of a sudden now, everything is making me well up. But it was just this moment where it's like, oh my god, I'm really touched by this. I love this.
Yeah,
I'm so glad we're here. And that really touched me. And I think I think you welled up. I know there was also one point where we were both desperately trying not to burst out laughing.
Oh gosh, it was when one of them on the interview panel was like, I'm just really looking forward to when Earth becomes when our Earth space brothers and space sisters can join the Federation. And I was just like, oh no, and it was the one that had Flight of Ideas and was chatting endlessly at us in the break. So I was like, I cannot look at Dave because I will laugh out loud. And this man is doing a proper cry.
But again, that was sort of beautiful. It was hilarious, but it was sort of beautiful because he was mad, but he obviously really believed it. Yeah. And it was really nice. But I thought
there was a moment where I welled up, and I absolutely can't remember when it was now. Definitely when we were sat listening to them. I really hope I can remember what it was, because there was a moment.
We'll have to rewatch the 3 hours on.
I know.
I'm sure it's on YouTube.
But I would say what was really touching is the main guy, because I'd seen him on that documentary, knew he was like heavily involved, and he's just really sweet and incredibly well-meaning.
And I think your height.
Shorter than me.
Shorter than me. Wow.
When he was showing us the room and describing the redecoration part that he had to do because it had flooded, and just hearing people's commitment to what looks like a fucking crazy, because that's the thing, you take yourself out of it for a moment. You're like, I am here because I'm genuinely interested that someone could believe in something so crazy, and I love when people are really well-meaning and want to do something, and they're doing it because they want people to be good people.
Ultimately, their message is like environmentalism and peace. Just everything. There's no bad in it, and they're not forcing you. They don't even give a toss if you have anything to do with them. But there was just something about hearing his absolute passion and commitment to something that I was like, oh, this is really sweet. But I don't remember what it was. There was definitely something like made me well up during the thing. But I'll have to come back round and have a think about what that was. But ultimately, I think that's the thing that I'm left with.
Yeah.
It's like, what a perfect mixture of anything, any sort of experience, if you can be both touched and also find it hilarious.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. That's great.
And I didn't know it would be so touching,
No,
actually.
I did. I mean, again, I thought it was just a parade that we were going to be able to watch go past, and then we were going to go home.
I thought it was going to be we're going to get to go in, have a mooch around all the mental stuff, see the parade, and then go get some food. Not have a 3-hour conference, which was amazing, absolutely amazing. And then to feel like I could not stop smiling the whole time. My cheeks hurt from being inside there.
Yeah, it was joyful.
And then you just left feeling so joyful.
Yeah.
Even though, do I think the Space Brothers are coming? Well, no.
I mean, I certainly don't.
We should act as if they are.
Yeah, I certainly don't. I also think it might be slightly blasphemous to say that Jesus is the space brother, but
and to write a whole book on it. Well, they didn't. Again, don't blame them. Blame Vixol or whoever it was.
But still, it's just a lovely thing. It's a lovely bunch of people that have found each other and they're doing a wonderful thing. And I truly believe that. Even though I also do think it was hilarious and utterly bonkers,
fucking mad.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a part of me sometimes with these things thinks, if these creative, well-meaning, intelligent people could apply this energy to something else, then, and I'm like, actually,
but why?
No.
Why should
exactly,
they?
Exactly. But this is what I thought about flat earthers when we first watched a documentary about them, and they're really clever, really intelligent, and like some of them are very sciencey, but are just applying it in a way that suits the idea. And I think in that documentary they say, like, if these people could apply this energy and intelligence to something else, wouldn't that be amazing? And I'm just like, amazing for who? Like,
I was gonna
these
say,
people are getting something out of. I mean, this is how I feel about flat earthers. They're not hurting me, And there was those two that met each other that way, and just watching what would happen to their worlds if someone. This is how I feel about atheism and just anyone that's like so hell bent on disproving someone's idea. I just think, why? You're gonna, I'm right, great. So you get to be gloaty and think you're right, and the other person's gonna have their world crushed. No one wins. So just let people be. And that's how I feel with Unarius, and they're having the fucking best time.
Except it's probably worth saying we didn't leave them be. We went and spent 3 hours with them and
learn it and love it.
No, I was going to say, but that was even from our perspective, as two people that don't believe in the Space Brothers and don't have it really even, as I think has probably been made clear, don't really fully understand exactly what it is that they believe. Got so much out of it. Genuinely got loads out of it. Not necessarily loads out of it like I'm going to change my life as a result of it, not at all. No. But in some ways, probably just because of the amount of joy that I saw there.
Yeah,
it changes you in a tiny way. Yeah, doing something like that, and I'm happy to be changed.
Exactly, I agree. And I've got my badge now, so when the Space Brothers come, they'll know that I'm one of them, or at least you're
going to leave me behind. You'll have to lend me your necklace.
Well, I've got 2 badges, so you can have one.
Yeah. Siobhan
I'm ordering a 3rd.
Siobhan bought all the merch. She was very taken with
I made a bad choice. I'm going to get another pin and the calendar. Don't worry. If anyone wants anything, save on postage. Let me know. I'm buying a few bits and pieces.
No, I feel like they'd probably accidentally really undercharge you on postage and then just send it anyway.
I did nick a sticker, so I do feel bad about that.
Well, that's on the record now. All right, well, I think we'll have to call it a day there. This is a bit naturally longer than our recent episodes. We have been the So Bet Punks podcast.
Yeah.
And you have been the listener. And if you'd like to contact us for any reason, or if you'd like to send Siobhan a inventory of what you would like her to buy you from Unarius when she does her big order.
Yeah. Probably just before Christmas, waiting for them to sort the calendar out.
There you go. Sham City Road. Yeah, they're not going to have that ready in time.
Well, no, the woman that I tried to buy it off was like, "Oh my god, I haven't made it yet."
Yeah. So I mean, calendars they need to be in the stores now.
Well,
anyhow,
never mind. Imperfectly perfect.
They're wonderfully non-capitalistic.
Oh my god! Saying that, I watched them accidentally overcharge someone for stickers. I think they were like, "Sorry, there's a $50 charge on my card."
Well, that was the last. That was the last thing that happened. Sorry, we are really going to finish, but the last thing that happened was that they couldn't make the bank machine work. Like everything,
they were just smacking it.
Every single banging it.
They were just smacking it, going, "I'm sure it'll work in a minute." Just smacking it.
And then they called someone else over, and she started smacking it.
Yeah.
It was just like, I think there was 3 people eventually that got called. Like they would keep getting, we'll get the technical support.
We'll take it out the back. And they took it out the back.
They took it out the back and banged it. I think just banged it on the table. Oh, it was fantastic. But so anyway, anyhow. So everything went wrong. So that's it. shamcityroast@gmail.com if you would like to talk to us. We haven't done this podcast in the way that I'm about to describe over the last month, but we will be back to doing this every 2 weeks, every other Thursday. We don't talk about it on social media. If you would like to tell your friends about it, that would be lovely, but if not, that's fine. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that the Space Brothers fill you with a psychodrama that you can dictate into a book and release it on Amazon for 99p for a digital copy, and I hope that you make at least £3.98.
Tell me and I'll buy it.
Sorry, £2.98. I did the maths wrong. Have a lovely couple of weeks. Never mind. Nah, that's the wrong maths on your part. £1.99. No, I said 99p. Doesn't matter. See you later. Bye.
Bye.